Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Tuesday, which means we will be enjoying an episode of the BluePrint Power Hour in just a moment with Coach Rob Regish. Later in the show, we're going to be joined by Howard Vlieger. Those of you who've been listening to the show for at least a decade know who Howard is. He had been on the show a couple different times when, as a farmer, he had discovered that glyphosate was destroying the stomachs of the hogs he was raising. And really, Howard and another gentleman, farmer in Australia, were the first ones to sound the bell about the dangers of glyphosate on the gut of pigs. And pigs are very close to humans. And so he has worked tirelessly to come up with an alternative, a natural, non-toxic alternative to glyphosate. And I think he has done it. We're going to talk about that later in the show. Also, if you're watching live, feel free to post questions and comments for the BluePrint Power Hour, and we will always answer every single comment and question. You may have to wait towards the end of the show or the middle of the show, but we will get to them all. Before we do any of that, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that is, of course, Legendary Foods, makers of the Tasty Pastry. Undeniably the fastest growing sports nutrition, healthy, low sugar snack in America today. I had one just before the show with one of Redcon One's MREs, the chocolate MRE. So 60 grams of protein. I felt like I was having dessert. It was delicious. 20 grams of high quality protein, less than 1 gram of sugar in the Tasty Pastry. You can save 10% by using the code SHR10. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SAVE big time. And also don't forget, listen during the commercial breaks for the secret word. When you hear the secret word, email it to onair@superhumanradio.net. Include your mailing address. You'll get a free box of Tasty Pastries, thanks to the generosity of one Ron Penna, who is also the inventor, the creator of the Tasty Pastry. And without further delay,
calling all BluePrint Army, fall in line. It's time for the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
hey, Rob, how you doing?
Good, man. It's 70 degrees here in the Northeast, and it's been raining for 2 weeks. So a lot of rain, but that hasn't stopped us from getting to the gym and taking care of business. So,
and my buddy Joey tells me the apples have never looked better in upstate New York.
Yeah, I mean, upstate New York is beautiful. For those of you that just think of New York City, when you hear New York, it's a whole different ballgame.
And they've, when upstate New York, so we've all heard of Rome apples. Those come from Rome, New York, not Rome, Italy. And we've had years where they haven't gotten much rain up there, and the apple crops have been pretty bad. The deer still like them. Deer love apples. If you have an apple orchard or a few apple trees on your property like I do, the deers are there every morning looking to see what fell overnight. But Joey told me that he has so many apples and so many mulberries that you can't even believe it. He's picking them and obviously letting the ones that fall to the ground stay for the deer. So the rain has been good for upstate New York right now.
Yeah, well, that's one good thing. Everything is green. Very
good. Yes, everything is green here too. You're right. It's raining today. Training is going good, I take it?
Training is going very good. I've dropped another couple pounds, so that's translated, of course, into more reps on my body weight stuff. My joints feel better, and things are more or less proceeding as planned. I could be in a lot worse shape. Let me say that.
We have lots of good questions. Again, feel free to post your questions or comments. We'll get to all of them. The first one comes from Sam Akbar. He says TMG, and we're talking about trimethylglycine here, right? Is shaping up to be a real winner in the research. Is that because of the glycine, or is it the methyl group? How much should I be taking, or should bodybuilders be taking for this purpose? And I read a lot about it on the boards, and people seem sincere, at least most of them. Is it a placebo effect or something else? What's going on?
Well, he's right about one thing. TMG, aka betaine anhydrous, it keeps racking up new studies that are showing all kinds of benefits in doses generally between 1.5 and 3 grams a day. About half of those benefits can be considered bodybuilding related, and the other half general health. But let's rewind though, because I want to show you what's real, what's exaggerated, and what kind of expectations that you need to have. TMG started showing up in the animal research long ago, late 1980s, early 90s, and it was during the mid 90s that it really caught my eye. Basically, it was being used, and still may be used, to create leaner, right, more muscular cattle and other animals when they bring them to market. So, of course, I tracked down and ordered some circa the late 1990s. It was, I can't recall exactly what year, but I do know it was from the now defunct Beyond a Century bulk powder place. Anyway, I wasn't impressed with it, right? And never reordered. And now bear in mind, 4-androdiol is legal at this time, and it's freely available, and they were selling it too. And that stuff certainly worked. You could feel that, but put yourself in my shoes. That was the comparison that I was kind of making between those two. Nevertheless, study after study was published as to its ability to cut cortisol, increase IGF-1 receptors, break down fat. They'll tell you it increases cell volumization, strength. It does lower homocysteine, which I'll get into, and also improve liver function. All of that from an extremely inexpensive nutrient that's derived from beets. So let me just cut to the chase. There may be a little extra muscle and a little more fat loss over time, but it's going to be, 3 to 6 months, and it's nothing dramatic. Having said that, TMG is extremely useful. If you're used in and around the workout, and certainly with amino acids, it's dynamite and has been shown to have many, many benefits, including recycling amino acids and extending the window, if you will, of anabolic action after a workout. When those two amino acids and TMG are taken together, which is part of the reason, by the way, TMG figures prominently in Synthogen and the EAAs. It is the health side of things, though, where you'll see TMG really shine. It's one of, if not the best ways that I found to go about lowering the inflammatory marker homocysteine. So if you're on HRT or you've got a progressive doc, they're probably going to be looking at that at some point. So based on what I've seen in my own labs, it does a better job of lowering homocysteine than what's usually prescribed, which is B vitamins and creatine. I would encourage you not to take my word for it. Try it and see. I'm willing to bet even heavy B vitamin use or creatine will lower it, but at least in my case, it does so, and I'm in the very, very top of that range. Whereas TMG knocks it way down, like I'm in the bottom quarter of the range. One other thing about TMG, it imparts this curious type of feel-good effect. You know, you'll often hear people say, I just feel good, or I had a lot of energy. And it's funny because I used to watch this, and I saw it over a long period of time. There used to be a little kiosk in the mall that I would go to. And the guy there was selling what amounted to little sachets of powdered TMG. So he'd give out free samples, and people would take it. They'd go and do a little shopping, and they would almost universally come back and say, wow, man, you know, I felt really good, or I can't believe how much energy I have. It happened every damn time I would go there. And, you know, while the wife was shopping, I would sit right like the other guys and watch the world go by. But it really struck me as, you know, this is not just placebo. In fact, that effect, now that I think about it, it's likely due to the fact that TMG converts in the liver to SAMe. I'm sure everyone has heard of SAMe. And SAMe in multiple studies has shown that it can benefit mild to moderate depression. As a precursor, okay, TMG is also a hell of a lot cheaper than SAMe. And any of you that have purchased both certainly know that that's the truth. Anybody can tell you that. Finally, his last part of the question is it the glycine or is it the methyl groups? I'll be honest, I don't know. It's probably a little bit of both. We know glycine by itself even is a superstar. And 3 methyl groups to go along with it certainly are not hurting, and they're helping a lot of things. I would say this is one of your top supplements to have in the rotation, particularly if you're, say, north of 35, 40. I like TMG a lot. I wouldn't be using it.
I have a bottle of it. I think I have 2 bottles of it. When Adele Musa came on my show years and years ago,
yep,
and talked about it, and then I had I want to say, yeah, I had well, you know who Dr. He's a young guy. I can't think of his name right now, but they call him the Muscle PhD.
Yeah.
He came on the show and talked about it too. Its ability to cause people to lose body fat. And so I have plenty of it at home. Maybe I'll give it a try, give it a run.
Yeah, it's cheap as dirt. You can buy half a kilo, which is almost a year's supply, for like $10-15.
The next question comes from Mike Melanson. He says, you've spoken before about matching your cardio to your weight training. My big issue is that cardio is boring as hell, and I just don't feel like I've gotten a lot. I feel like I've gotten a lot back from it. I don't feel like I've gotten a lot back from it, from my efforts. I think there's more to this question. Hold on. Sorry. I'll be increasing the volume of my weight training substantially soon. Any tips on some kind of cardio I can live with?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to make the distinction between cardio and conditioning. I look at them as 2 very different things. And the difference being, conditioning to me is short bursts of anaerobic work, which, by the way, if you become proficient at that, it will allow you to do just about any amount of lower intensity, steady state work very easily. Curiously enough, the reverse is not true. The key point to remember is this. Just doing list cardio isn't going to cut it. And you're not going to see a lot for your efforts. You know, there's a place for it. Can't do high intensity cardio all the time, but it's not going to get you to where you want to go. Also, there is no rule which says you need to perform one and only one, I'll call it a movement, when working on your conditioning. For example, You might hit the heavy bag for 30 seconds. Sprint with a sled that's got half your body weight. Do that for 150 feet. Immediately hop onto one of those Airdyne resistance bikes. Do that for 30 seconds, and then it's back with the sled. Sprint back to where you started. Now, rest for a minute and then rinse, wash, and repeat that as many times as you can. Actually, what I would tell you is start with 2 to 3 rounds of that. And that'll be plenty for most people to start. And simply add 1 round every time you complete, that session, building up to 10 rounds of it. Once you're able to accomplish that, shave the rest periods, by 15 seconds. So now you're down to 45 seconds, and then build back up to 10 rounds and keep going, and see how far down you can get those rest periods. It's a fantastic way to build your anaerobic endurance, I'll call it. It's very flexible. You can add weight to the sled. If you don't want to cut down the rest periods, you can add weight to the sled. You can hit the heavy bag and bike for longer than 30 seconds. Or you can even add a 5th exercise to the mix if you really want to seal your fate. Finish with 10 to 20 burpees. The whole shebang, 10 rounds of it takes about 30 minutes. But the point is you only start with 5 or 10 maybe. And believe me, it goes by fast. Why? Because you're usually running from one exercise station to the other. You're almost always timing yourself. And of course, you're timing those rest intervals. I would also tell you to keep track of how many rounds you've actually done by noting it, let's say, in a little training logbook. And the reason I'm telling you that is, at least this is how I do it. If I lose track, and it's easy to, if you're not putting a little slash mark down, if I lose track, I penalize myself. In other words, if I lose track of what round I'm on, I have to start over. And yes, I've gotten pretty deep into it, lost track, and made myself start over. So, if there's one thing in the world you don't want to do 5 rounds into something like this is make a mistake like that. So it keeps you very, very honest. Another benefit to that type of training is the fact that you're certainly not going to be bored, right? I mean, how could you with the variety of exercises at your disposal? Combinations are limitless. It's certainly preferred in my mind over the treadmill to nowhere or the joint pounding of jogging. And it can be scaled, right, to any strength level. There's a lot more that I have to say on the topic. And I've learned more than a few new wrinkles that I think are really going to help people. It goes way beyond keeping the heart and lungs in shape. Before, in my mind, conditioning works just keeping the heart and lungs in shape. You get this right, and you will tear through your regular, weight workouts, resistance workouts. I found myself going from, oh my God, I got to wait, at least another 3 minutes before I recover, to I'm looking at it, it's like, oh man, I want to go. I want to go now. It's only been a minute or two. I want more. You just burn through it. There's no comparison to when you're not doing it. So that's what I've experienced. I would encourage you to experiment in said fashion and find what works for you, but you certainly won't be bored and you will get back.
And you're really, I mean, people think that the only kind of cardio there is to do is to get on a treadmill or an elliptical machine and park yourself there for 45 minutes. I like, if you ever watch Dr. Sean Baker's videos, the guy who's the carnivore guy, he combines a series of things. He'll combine a deadlift. Well, he'll do 10 reps with not medicine ball, but the stone lift, which he'll do 10 reps. Then he'll get on his Airdyne and do 10 minutes or 10. Yeah, I guess he does 10 minutes on there.
Yep.
And then he'll move to a sled and do 10 reps, back and forth.
Yep.
And, and then maybe he'll get on his rowing machine and do 10 minutes. And that's one whole circuit.
It's exactly what I'm talking about.
And you're talking about, like, he just did 40 minutes, 50 minutes of cardio.
Right.
It went by fast because he moved between 5 or 6 different movements. And some of them were anaerobic dependent and some of them were aerobic dependent. And there's a blending that occurs, but it's definitely not boring. It's not boring.
That's a very interesting way to go about it. I had always preferred anaerobic. Maybe that's why I've structured it the way I have, but I might give that a go. Anaerobic.
Look at who was the guy I did a show about him? Isn't this funny? I am so tired today. I'm sorry about this. I'm just exhausted. I had some problems last night at night, and I didn't get a good night's sleep. But with that being said, Litvinov, the guy who was a famous hammer thrower, in the Olympics, his thing was he would do a set of squats. And immediately upon being done with that set, he would sprint 200, 300 yards. This is another way to do cardio. People don't think about it, but if you don't think cardio is affected by heavy lifting, you're missing the boat. So there's a lot of things you can do to make your cardio sessions much less boring.
Yep.
You just have to think outside the box a little bit. Jim Cicchetti says, friend and I have a difference of opinion as to what's better for hypertrophy, box squats or regular squats. My friend says box squats because you can recover faster from them. I say regular squats because box squats are more of a power lifter's movement. Who's right? Neither of you.
Well,
sorry.
The short answer to me is there are, you're both partially right, and maybe partially wrong. In a bottom line sense, if I had to pick one, I would say he's right. In other words, regular squats will hypertrophy the leg muscles more than box squats. Everything else being, even or constant. Now, your friend correctly points out that recovery from box squats is generally much faster than so-called regular squats.
Yeah, because regular squats are harder. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Look, not squatting, you can recover from not squatting even faster. You know what I mean? So come on. The reason regular squats are take time to recover is because they're harder. And we all know time under tension. What people forget about all of this is when we start splitting hairs about hypertrophy, you can do 5 reps, but do 25 sets. And now you've got the magic of strength building combined with the magic of hypertrophy, because volume is what makes muscles bigger.
Right.
That's the magic. Good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump on you.
So, I'm thinking your friend might have been thinking, because you can recover faster, you can do more frequently, and therefore, use more volume and grow better. But that's only a partial truth. Box squats will build strength by virtue of the fact they allow for static overcome by dynamic work, which is to say, you lower yourself onto the box, you pause, right? So you'll be in a static position momentarily, and then you overcome gravity by standing up, which is obviously the dynamic part of it. In static overcome by dynamic. The slight pause that builds a lot of strength is what separates it in large part, in my mind anyway, from traditional squats, where you've got a much faster transition, right, from eccentric, lowering of the weight, to concentric, pushing it back up. In a traditional squat, that kind of transition can be visualized graphically, because I'm someone that learns visually, as a check mark. The faster and more, up and down the check mark is, the greater the myofilament sliding and associated muscle damage. The muscle damage is why it takes longer to recover versus the box squats, but also why remolding and ultimately hypertrophy is greater as well. So there are pluses and minuses to both. It needn't be an either or situation. Alternatively, box squats can be very useful in correcting traditional squatting mistakes, I'll call it, and in particular depth, right? Because once you've set the box at the correct height, you're always going to know you're going to at least parallel every time you sit on the box. While we're on that topic, please, please do not bounce or even lightly touch the box, because of the fact that the kinetic energy that's traveling down your spine and skeleton has nowhere to go
except your lumbar spine.
Right, when you crash into the box. I see it every day at my gym. It is every bit as cringeworthy as you can imagine. It looks just as bad, the 100th time you've seen it as the first time. So just make sure you're not one of those people. Anyway, after squatting onto a parallel box for a few weeks or months, when you take the box away, your body will tend to go down to precisely that level. Your body's going to want to go to that depth because it's been built into your muscle memory and movement patterns by the box squatting. So it's a way to get to doing a traditional squat correctly.
Do you know what ZDX is? So first of all, Pete Williams is a childhood friend of mine, a guy I love very much.
Yep.
And we went to Nativity school in Brooklyn together, and we became awakened. He and I used to escape school and go to Pratt Institute, where all the hippies were protesting the Vietnam War, and it was really very cool. Pete's a good friend of mine. He posted ZDX. I'm looking for ZDX. The only thing I can find is it's a car by Acura. Pete, can you expand on this if it's a question? We would love to discuss it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what ZDX is.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe he means like, what is that thing with the bands, that they, you use your body weight, and it's like bands that you can do push-ups on. And
like TRX? Or?
TRX. Maybe he's talking about TRX. I'm not sure. So if you could expand on that, Pete, that would be great. The other thing is, if we know anything about what builds muscle, it's volume. In fact, you can build muscle with 35% of your 1 rep maximum if you do enough volume with it. And this is something that seems to evade people. Why we're continuing to have these questions about what builds muscle. Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, Lane Norton, Doug Brignoli, these guys who are champions and scientists in this field all agree that, yeah, of course your body will respond to just a 5x5 indefinitely. But if you want to build muscle, you have to do volume, because volume stretches the muscle. The fascia of the muscle is like the walls of the rooms in your home. And if you want to put more furniture in the room, you have to move the walls out to make room. And volume does that because it capitalizes on the pump, and the pump stretches the fascia. And when the fascia stretches, then the muscle fibers can take in more fluid and get plumper, which makes the overall size of the muscle larger. You don't get that from doing a powerlifter's workout. Now, you can do it with a powerlifter's workout if you do 20 and 30 sets of everything. If you're just doing 3 to 5 reps, good, do 3 to 5 reps, but do 20 sets of that. Don't stop at 5 sets if you really want to use that. And that's what power building is. Power building that is practiced by Mike O'Hearn, he's a strong MF. I don't care who doesn't like him, or they want to argue about whether or not he uses gear or not. I mean, the guy on his birthday is, 40-something birthday, does like 40-something reps with 315. I mean, the guy is a savage. He's a monster. And so to tear a page out of his power building protocol, he uses extremely heavy weight, and he does as many reps as he can with that weight, but he does tons of sets. Gets to the gym at 4:00 in the morning. Like, he's there for hours. And that's another thing that Doug Brignoli said. Most people don't train long enough. That's why they don't get the results. They want to be in and out of the gym in a half hour, 40 minutes, and they believe that stuff they saw on YouTube, build muscle in 15 minutes a day. That's BS. If that was the case, every bodybuilder would do that.
Right. And if you think about the exact opposite of that, heavy duty, one set to absolute muscular failure, you never see the hypertrophy keep up with the strength gains. No. I've always said that a certain threshold of mechanical work needs to be done in order for hypertrophy to occur. It's another way of just saying what you did, Carl.
I put an inch on my biceps in one day because of this guy right here, Rob Regish. But guess what? How many hours did I train that day, Rob? I mean, I brought food with me. Rob had me do all this stuff and then take a break and have a protein drink with some carbohydrates and rest for like 15, 20 minutes and get back to work. I think I was at the gym for 4 or 5 hours continuously, but my biceps never were bigger after that. I mean, that was the biggest my biceps ever got. And what does it tell you? We're not training long enough. That's all it is.
Yeah. And it's not just inflammation.
No, it wasn't inflammation at all. It wasn't.
Right. I mean, it sticks around. When you do it right, it sticks around.
Yes. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got lots more questions. Feel free to ask your questions live, and we will get to all of them. You are listening to and watching the BluePrint Power Hour. You can go to CoachRobRegish.com to learn more. We'll be right back. Keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Sludge is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Biooptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today. Is there something interfering with your happiness or ability to achieve your goals? BetterHelp can help. They will assess your needs and match you with a licensed therapist. This is not a self-help or crisis line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of experts and are available worldwide without having to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room. Get the help you need and start living a happier life today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/betterhelp. That's better, HELP, and receive 10% off your first month of counseling when you use the code SHR. Glyphosate. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today. Attention meat lovers. I've discovered a snack with just 2 ingredients, meat and salt. That is so tender and delicious, you almost can't believe it. That's right, no soy, sugar, or other crap. Our partner, Carnivore Snacks, nailed it with these mouth-watering snacks. They have a variety too. Ribeye, pork loin, leg of lamb, and more, all sourced here in the USA from regenerative farms. Claim your superhuman offer from Carnivore Snacks today at shrnetwork.biz/snacks. That's SNAX. Use the code superhuman for 15% off your first order plus a free 2-ounce pork loin. If you spend any amount of time sitting while at work like I do, I have the chair for you. The Backstrong chair from All 33 is the most comfortable office chair I've ever sat in. That's the truth. Their patented technology allows your body to move the way it's supposed to move while you sit. Designed by a chiropractor to position your pelvis in a way that stacks all 33 of your vertebrae into perfect alignment. The benefits of this ideal posture include relief of back pain, deeper breathing, better digestion, improved circulation, greater focus, sharper memory, and more productivity. Start experiencing these benefits today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move and use the code SHR100 for a $100 discount on your Backstrong chair. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. Oh, you're not Howard Vlieger. Rob Regish. You're not Howard Vlieger, Rob Regish. All right, so the next question. So I may have missed the question, it looks like. I got Mike Mellinson. I'm going to have to look and see. We'll get to it. So Ron Rindell says, I'm interested in forskolin. What can you tell me about it?
Yeah, forskolin, or Coleus forskoli, has been used in Ayurvedic or Indian medicine for thousands of years. It has multiple uses, but the primary one that bodybuilders are interested in is fat loss. And you will also see claims associated with, maintaining testosterone levels in the face of a very, very aggressive diet. Forskolin
is forskolin kind of like a lot of the herbs that you talk about, that there are different sources that have different results? For some reason, I remember years ago that there was some sort of suggestion that only certain forms of Coleus forskolin actually worked. Has that been dispelled?
No, it's much like tribulus or ecdysterone. Right. There's junk and there's good stuff.
Right.
And I'll address that right at the end to what's what. But forskolin is something that I would call marginally effective for fat loss when it's taken by itself. Its mode of action is that it increases cyclic AMP or CAMP. And CAMP activation generally favors fat loss. It can be seen, for example, while fasting, one of the things that happens. But it's a whole different enchilada when forskolin is stacked with a beta agonist like ephedrine, and of course, usually paired with caffeine. There is at least one very solid human study showing forskolin being truly synergistic for fat loss when paired with a beta agonist. So usually 25 milligrams is taken twice a day with ephedrine and caffeine, one in the morning, one dose in the morning, another early afternoon. There is some research, which is kind of sketchy in my opinion, as to its ability to preserve testosterone levels, like I said, in the face of a severe diet or caloric restriction. For that matter, there's a study showing forskolin is not only beat Anavar when going head to head in terms of muscle gain and fat loss, but completely blowing it away. Now, since nobody's trading in their VAR for forskolin, I'll let you decide the validity of that study. That doesn't invalidate its primary use, though, right? So, and it's not very expensive if you decide to experiment with it. There are two products to look for, in my opinion, when shopping for forskolin. The first is PES Science, I think. They're product Forskolin 95.
Yeah, I remember them a long time ago. I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, and the other one is any product, generally speaking, that's using Sabinsa's patented Forsline branded Forskolin. And if you look at the studies, this is the type of Forskolin that was used. So it makes sense to use it. As the name would imply on the PES product, it's a 95% Forskolin extract. So it gives you 25 milligrams of Forskolin per cap, along with 200 milligrams of something called Humira callus fulva, something like that. The benefits of which are not, I can't really speak to. I don't know how much it's doing in there. I suspect it's window dressing. They're trying to make it a differentiator. Now, I've seen two versions of that PES product. One using Forsline branded Forskolin, and the other not, or at least it's not noted on the label. Both have been acceptable in terms of how they work. So I would tell you that that's probably the product to look for. That's Forskolin in a nutshell. It's useful for fat loss, especially when stacked with ephedrine or albuterol or any other beta agonist.
So we do have a question that I missed, and Rob indicated that, and here it is. Ryan Sanders says, you say most supplements don't stand the test of time or frequently recommend against using many of them. How do you explain this success story, though? I read a lot of them on the boards, and these people seem sincere, at least most of them. Is it a placebo effect or something else? I can't believe, did I miss that question? I feel like I'm reading it a second time. Or maybe
No,
I blended too.
You got maybe part of it before.
Yeah, I did. So there you go. Okay, there you go.
Virtually any new product introduction is accompanied by a lot of hype, right? Lots of free. It's also accompanied in a lot of cases by a lot of free samples and pumping the product up on its home board or other boards. Which now I don't fault companies for, let's say, hyping a new product. You need to advertise. You shouldn't be making ridiculous claims, but you do need to advertise and let people know, here it is. Here's what it does. Where I take issue is when there are all these freebies being given away to, I'll call it influential board members, some of them being company reps or worse, people being paid by the company to appear neutral, and of course, giving the product glowing reviews. That's not just a problem with supplements. You'll see that on Amazon and other places. I never did that as an example with Synthogen. It was just, here it is, here's what it does, and here's what you can expect. And there are reasons why I didn't do things the other way. First, whenever you get something from someone for free, obviously you feel kind of obligated to give it a good review.
Good review. Yeah.
Or at the very least, the benefit of the doubt, right? Otherwise, you're not going to get any more free stuff in the future. And let's be honest, people love free stuff.
Right.
Second, fake reviews, in my mind, are worst of all, meaning these are bots or they're people paid by the company to appear neutral or impartial, and of course, say good things. And as you can imagine, that goes on a lot. When you remove the things like that, though, that will tend to bias a review, you're still left with two other problems that kind of skew reality. And they are, number one, the placebo effect, which is, anything new, exciting, or expensive or exotic is going to get people to get excited and possibly act differently.
Let's be honest. People are hopeful. We all want to build muscle faster. We all want to lose fat faster. So when somebody comes out with something and there's some substantially understandable science behind it, we want to believe in it. We want it to work.
Yeah. And when I say act differently, I mean, they'll tighten up their diet. They're more consistent with their training. they train harder in some cases, or they generally practice a more disciplined lifestyle. And of course, the results follow, and they don't know which one to attribute it to. So that's one of the problems. The other one is this. There's always going to be that kid out there who's using the product at just the right time, right, in his training career. So let's say for the first time, he's eating more than 2,000 calories a day. He's eating 4,000. For the first time, he's lifting heavy free weights and pouring himself into things like squats and deadlifts and bench presses versus machines or isolation movements. Or let's say he turns 18 and he's using, 20 rep breathing squats and pullovers program. Against that backdrop, he coincidentally just starts using the new product. And of course he's going to gain, right? He's probably going to make some of the best gains of his training career. And many of them will be convinced, though, that it's a supplement doing a lot of the work, right? Because that's how
well, and on top of that, chances are those changes, those modifications that you talk about, he's not tracking those, right? He's not necessarily he's not saying, here are the things I changed, because few people are that meticulous to have where they were and now what they're doing that's new. The only thing he thinks he's doing new is he's taking this supplement.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I guess I assumed everybody tracks this stuff. I guess that's not a good assumption. But also, he may assume it's a supplement for the very reason that a lot of us have been conditioned to look at. That's how people grow, right? They take something as opposed to doing something like changing their workout, changing their diet, etc. That kid's going to be over the moon, and you can bet his online review is going to reflect it. And it'll be, here's the thing. Even if later on he's like, oh, you know what, that really wasn't the supplement, it was my training or diet. That review is out there forever in cyberspace, right?
Yeah, because 3 months later he could go, wow, that stuff ended up being a bust because I didn't gain the muscle I thought I was going to gain. But that's not going to be out there. What's going to be out there is that one review.
Right. So, once you strip away all of those things, though, you're left with what really works. And that's usually, I'll call it the 30-year-old and up who's been in this game for a long time and repeatedly buys the product. Repeat buys by guys that have been around the block will tell you more about a product than any amount of advertising, any amount of online reviews, any amount of hype. It's all about staying power. And, well, just coincidentally, it's Synthogen's 10-year anniversary later this month. So, I could say that about a number of products, but there's one that I recall vividly. When I rolled it out, I got a lot of skepticism from people. And what I said almost word for word was this: 10 years from now, Synthogen's still going to be around, largely unchanged. And here we are. So that's how you find those products. But yes, things like the placebo effect are very real.
Yeah.
Very real.
And that's why you really just have to try this stuff yourself. Read the science, and if it makes sense to you, give it a try.
Right.
And that's what happened with creatine, and people keep using it. So,
can I ask a favor? Can we break now, or do we?
Yeah, we're going to. We're actually breaking now.
Great.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Knoll Creek Hemp Company's Delta 8 soft chews are the premier Delta 8 product on the market today. Knoll Creek's Delta 8 is produced from high-quality hemp-derived CBD oil, and soft chews are manufactured using proprietary nano-emulsification technique that ensures the Delta 8 soft chew will timely deliver the desired effects cleanly and consistently from piece to piece. In a space where at least 70% of the products fail to meet label claims and where most users of conventional hemp products are left disappointed, Knoll Creek's Delta 8 soft chews are a product you can trust. Visit shrnetwork.biz/Delta8. That's DELTA and the number 8, and use the code SHR20 to get 20% off your first order today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that, do this, avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized, one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/inside tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside. Glyphosate. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order. If you spend any amount of time sitting while at work like I do, I have the chair for you. The Backstrong chair from All 33 is the most comfortable office chair I've ever sat in. That's the truth. Their patented technology allows your body to move the way it's supposed to move while you sit. Designed by a chiropractor to position your pelvis in a way that stacks all 33 of your vertebrae into perfect alignment. The benefits of this ideal posture include relief of back pain, deeper breathing, better digestion, improved circulation, greater focus, sharper memory, and more productivity. Start experiencing these benefits today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/move and use the code SHR100 for a $100 discount on your Backstrong chair.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Later in the show, we're going to be joined by Howard Vlieger. He's in my green room now. I see him. I see you, Howard. And we're going to be talking about an alternative to glyphosate. We just did a show with Dr. Stephanie Seneff about her new book, Toxic Legacy, and talking about the dangers of glyphosate. Howard is one of the guys who brought it to my attention. He has a buddy who's a farmer in Australia that he introduced me to years ago, who they started looking at the stomachs of the pigs that they were processing and realized these pigs had horrible ulcers and all sorts of gut problems. And they showed it was tied directly to the feed that had been sprayed by glyphosate. And that was the beginning. Wow. That was the beginning. Before we get to the blueprint tip of the day, let's go ahead and so Peter Cranioticus, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name, Cranioticus. What method can be used to increase joint lubrication? I get visco supplementation injections in both knees every 6 to 8 months and take glucosamine chondroitin, MSM, Celadrin, and etc. What do you think?
Well, the only thing that I didn't hear on his list that I would be using is Cesis. I don't know if that's lubrication per se. It sounds like he's doing a good job covering some of those bases. I do know of a gel that has been injected into several people I know their knees with varying degrees of success.
It's called high molecular weight hyaluronic acid.
Yeah, so that has a particularly good track record, at least in those cases within our realm of, let's say.
I got him back in the day. I only got it. I went one time. They give you a shot in each knee. They use what do they call that? Ultrasound guided,
Yep.
so that they get into the capsule joint, and they inject it once a week for 2 weeks, and then you go away. And I never needed anything after that. It was amazing. I'll tell you that right. It was high molecular weight hyaluronic acid.
Yeah,
and I think the brand back then was actually called Hyaluron, RON, Hyaluron. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would be doing, depending upon your body weight and body fat level. Dropping 5 to 10 pounds takes a lot of pressure off a joint.
Okay, so if you live near Columbus, Ohio, there is a physician up there. If you PM me, I don't want to say it out loud. If you PM me here, I will send you his information. That does growth hormone injections directly into the knees. This is following a show that I did a decade ago on intra-articular growth hormone injections. It actually regrows cartilage. And if you PM me, I'll send you his information if you're interested in getting with him. You have to bring your own growth hormone. He won't prescribe it because it he'd undergo a lot of scrutiny from the FDA and the medical licensure board and all that sort of stuff, just because it's growth hormone. Oh my God, that's so dangerous. But when they inject it directly into the capsule joint, it's not delivered systemically, and so it just stays in there. And they do 20 milligrams in each. 20 IUs in each knee once a week for 3 weeks, and then you go home. And in 6 to 8 months, your knees are like they were when you were in your 20s.
Wow,
True story.
That could really help a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah, Peter said he's been using the Hyaluron. Yeah, it does work. It just doesn't work forever. That's the problem with it. So, Rob, what is the BluePrint tip of the day?
Tip of the day is why learning the hard way is sometimes the best way. So, as a father and coach, I frequently talk to my son and his friend about the dangers of engaging in certain high-risk activities. Having said that, they're 15-year-old boys, right? I mean, there wouldn't be emergency rooms if it weren't for 15-year-old boys. But my son's friend, his name's Gerard. He's a great kid. He's very smart. He's an extremely hard worker in the gym, but he also does a lot of dumb stuff. Stuff like climbing to the highest point that he can find and then jumping off. I mean, my knees cringe whenever I see him do this. He is also prone to, let's say, swinging from TRX straps and putting his feet in the grips and just swinging because he's bored in between sets. Well, one day I heard a splat, and it was him. He had fallen backwards and almost perfectly flat slapped against the very, very hard ground, right? Really his upper back and maybe even a little bit of the back of his neck. Had that been a split second later, had he swung forward just a little further, he may have broken his neck. So I'm constantly on him about don't jump off stuff. Now, if you want to climb, God bless you. Climb all you want. God knows I climbed, 100-foot pine trees when I was a kid. But jumping from ridiculous heights, that's a problem. And I got to drill it into him every time I see him. If you keep that up, you're going to get hurt or worse. And that's what I told him that day and virtually every day after that. So he texted me Monday, which was day one of his vacation on Cape Cod. And the news wasn't good. He had jumped from a rope swing, apparently, and broke almost every bone in his foot. He said he shattered a growth plate. I don't know where, maybe an ankle, who knows. But his leg was so swollen, they couldn't even put him in a cast. And we're talking Boston Children's Hospital, I think he said he was at. He's not going to be walking for months by his own admission. And he's headed back home now to a hospital that's a little closer for more medical care. Now, I didn't come down too hard on him, right? Because he's already down and out. But I did say everything happens for a reason, and he may have actually been fortunate. And what I meant by that was this might have been just what he needed, and to keep him from doing something even dumber and getting hurt worse, breaking his neck, or, God knows what, right? He is learning the hard way right now on many levels, but sometimes that's the best way. When you learn things the hard way, those lessons tend to stick. And right, I mean, I learned real fast that you couldn't train 3 times a day, every day, even when you're very young, or at least the way I was doing it. Or certainly for any length of time, you just can't keep it up. Now, how did I learn that? Well, I wasn't smart enough to stop. So my body stopped me anyway. By number 1, I got sick. And number 2, I got hurt. That's your body's way of protecting itself. When you're not bright enough to stop doing what you're doing, when every joint, tendon, ligament, and muscle in your body is protesting. So, that was the bad news. The good news is I never made that mistake again, because building muscle was so important to me. It hurt as much or more to be set back and not be able to build muscle for 6 weeks than the actual injuries and sickness themselves. Now, I'll give you another example. Later on, I learned about a variety of intensification techniques. And so, one day I figured if 1's good, then 3's got to be better, right? I mean, you just stack these 3 on top of each other. Needless to say, that didn't go very well. And so that was another trip to the hospital. I could go on and on about various things I tried in this sport and elsewhere, but primarily in this sport, that didn't end well. But you know what I'm saying. You get the picture. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And that would certainly apply to me. Although I don't have, I did not have, for most of my career, I had no instruction. I had very little, I had one person that imparted knowledge, and God bless him, Eddie Azzaro, for that. But by and large, it was trial and error. And to be totally honest, I was 15. I remember being 15, 16 too. Even with some of the warnings, I probably would have made the same mistakes and had to learn the hard way. Now, there are some mistakes that I hope you don't have to learn the hard way. I was lucky, right? Since I made most of the mistakes in this sport in my youth, I learned my lesson. And because I was young when I made these mistakes, I had time to recover. Using money as an example, you can squander a $250,000 inheritance, let's say, at age 20 and still recover from it. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be a lot harder than obviously starting at 250, but you've got time. You can still recover from it. Do that at 50 though, and it's a completely different story. Sometimes learning the hard way is the best way, because you'll never forget it. The people I know that have lost, I know somebody who just recently squandered 40 grand, 25-year-old, 40 grand in day trading. And I didn't know what to say to him. And what he said to me, though, was this. He says, I consider that 40 grand the tuition for learning a hard money lesson. And that's probably the best way to look at it, because otherwise you're just going to focus on the fact that, my God, I just pissed away 40 grand. I am a person that believes everything happens for a reason. And for some people, me included, learning the hard way is life's best teacher. Just try not to make the mistakes later in life that you've hopefully learned from after you've made them when you were younger. So
Great stuff.
yeah, I mean, it's not easy for me to look back and think about all the mistakes I made, but in retrospect, a lot of them made me better at my craft today.
CoachRobRegish.com is the place to go to get more of Rob when he's not on the air. Check him out. Thanks a lot for everything today, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we're going to take one quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Howard Vlieger to talk about an alternative to Roundup or glyphosate for your garden. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. I keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Managing blood sugar is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today. Glyphosate. I need to share with you all a revolutionary new wearable technology called HapB. HapB allows you to enjoy the effects of caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, melatonin, and muscle relaxants without actually ingesting anything. Yes, really. They figured out the unique magnetic signature of each of these molecules and recorded them. Just put the HapB on, choose the signal you want, and it starts projecting the magnetic signature of that molecule that you choose, like coffee for feeling alert. Go to hapbee.com/SHR. That's HAPBEE.com/SHR to learn more and unlock an $80 discount exclusively for the Superhuman Radio listeners. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Attention meat lovers. I've discovered a snack with just 2 ingredients, meat and salt. That is so tender and delicious, you almost can't believe it. That's right, no soy, sugar, or other crap. Our partner, Carnivore Snacks, nailed it with these mouth-watering snacks. They have a variety too. Ribeye, pork loin, leg of lamb, and more, all sourced here in the USA from regenerative farms. Claim your superhuman offer from Carnivore Snacks today at shrnetwork.biz/snacks. SNAX. That's SNAX. Use the code SUPERHUMAN for 15% off your first order, plus a free 2-ounce pork loin. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Well, the internet has frozen. I'm trying to get Howard on. Something always goes wrong. Isn't it amazing? Stand by if you can still hear me. Not sure what's going on. Yeah, it's always something. It's always something. Hang on, folks. I'm trying to get this thing running. There we go. Here we go. It's coming back. Howard, I don't know if you can hear me, but stand by, brother. Stand by. I have no idea what's going on right now. No. That's not what I want. Close that. Here we go. Come on. Bingo. So frustrating. I swear, Monsanto doesn't want this show to air. That's what this is all about. How you doing, Howard?
Thankful to be up and around yourself.
Yeah, good. So for those of you who remember Howard Vlieger, he came on the show many, many years ago when we discovered that hogs that were eating genetically modified crops, soybean and corn and stuff like that, were developing horrible ulcerations in their stomach, and they were getting sick. Their litter numbers were dropping. And there was a guy in Australia. Wasn't that the guy that I had on the show with you? That he was a farmer from Australia, right?
Well, the lead scientist on the study was Dr. Judy Carmen. She's from Australia.
That's what it is. Okay.
I coordinated the study here in the U.S., and she was the lead scientist on the paper.
And back then, you guys were the first ones to kind of raise the red flag and say, maybe glyphosate is destroying these hogs' stomachs. And maybe it's doing that to humans too, because we know that humans and hogs share a lot of biology and physiology. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. And then Dr. Stephanie Seneff came along, and then Dr. Anthony Samsel. And we just had Stephanie on the show because of her new book, which is now very, very science heavy, showing not only from her position that all the things she warned about when it came to glyphosate have come to pass, but also Dr. Anthony Samsel, through the Freedom of Information Act, has gotten damning emails between Monsanto and other organizations where they admitted knowing that glyphosate was really bad for humans, but they went out and they released it on the population anyway.
Well, the EPA, there are probably more than one meaning for that. I always thought it meant ensure pesticide applications.
That's funny. So you've worked for how many years now to try to come up with something that's not toxic and that actually enhances the quality of the soil that would be an effective herbicide? How long have you been working on this?
Well, I've been working with this company since I started working with Contact Organics in the fall of 2015, and getting the regulatory hoops all navigated took longer than we had hoped to, but we have definitely are bringing to market a very consistently effective contact herbicide. Contact meaning that you have to cover the plant that you want to make. We have done our homework on it. We've got science behind it. We've worked with the University of Missouri on efficacy tests, and we continue to do more efficacy testing with them. But the first study we did was to measure how the product affects the microbiome of the soil or the microorganisms. We did a head-to-head comparison with Roundup. Dr. Bob Kramer, who's known around the world for his expertise in how glyphosate affects the microorganisms in the soil, he did the study. And long story short, in a direct comparison with glyphosate, of course, reduces the population of beneficial organisms in the soil and increases the population of the disease-causing organisms in the soil. Our product did exactly opposite. We reduced the population of the disease-causing organisms and increased the population of the beneficial organisms. So we can provide weed control and make the soil healthier at the same time. And that's a win-win, and the residual benefits, we're still getting further and further documentation on that. And as we work with more and more customers, that benefit just it keeps giving and giving in a positive way instead of the adverse way that the synthetic products do.
So let's talk about this for a second. So from a farming standpoint, the advantage of glyphosate, if we can point out an advantage, is that the crops that it's used on are by and large genetically modified to resist the effects of glyphosate. But while that's a convenience for the farmer, it's a horrible inconvenience for the consumer, because this means that they can slather the entire crop indiscriminately with glyphosate, and it theoretically will kill the weeds. I say theoretically because we now already have glyphosate resistant weeds, and that's why they want to add dicamba and stuff that was used in Agent Orange to overcome the resistance. But from the farmer standpoint, they spray it indiscriminately, and theoretically the crop survives. This is a contact herbicide, which means you can only spray it on the weeds, right?
Correct. It's a non-selective and a contact herbicide. The biggest context of the contact is glyphosate is systemic. And you spray a little bit of that product on the susceptible plant, it will translocate and will die. Now, glyphosate does not kill weeds.
You broke up. It will translocate into the soil, you said?
It will translocate into every part of the plant, including the soil.
Okay.
But glyphosate does not kill weeds. This has been documented in scientific studies 3 times. And Dr. Huber, who I've been privileged to work with since 2009, Uri Yohal was the researcher who first discovered that glyphosate doesn't kill weeds. It's the disease in the soil that's responsible for killing the weed. And the way they proved this, they took 3 pots of field soil, they put the 1 pot in an autoclave, and they basically
killed every living organism in it. Right.
Killed the organisms in the soil. Then they planted an edible bean in each pot. The edible bean growing in the sterile soil was sprayed with glyphosate. The edible bean growing in the field soil was sprayed with glyphosate, and the edible bean next to it was not sprayed. That was the control. The bean that was growing in sterile soil never died. It stunted its growth for 2 weeks, and then it took off growing again because glyphosate shuts down the growth hormone system in the plant, and it shuts down the defense mechanism in the plant so that the plant's not able to send out the enzymes and amino acids when it detects an attack on itself from a soil-borne fungus.
Mhm.
So when a weed is quote unquote resistant to glyphosate, it is not resistant to glyphosate. It's resistant to the opportunistic organisms that are in the soil, which glyphosate coincidentally enhances the growth of them.
Mhm.
When you kill off the good bugs, the controls, the Pseudomonas is a big one that glyphosate whacks. Well, that's a protective organism. It's kind of like looking at the gut. You've got Lactobacillus, Enterococcus fecalis, and Bifidobacteria. They're all good guys. But the E. coli and the Salmonella and the, they're the opportunistics. So when that weed becomes quote unquote resistant to glyphosate, it's not resistant to glyphosate, it's resistance to the disease. And that's why we have this continuing evolution of sorts of the weeds that don't die when they're sprayed with glyphosate. Its mode of action is going to naturally cause the progression and development of superweeds.
Yeah, because this is evolution. Basically, glyphosate is reduced selection pressure. The weeds that thrive in an environment or in the soil that glyphosate is basically poisoning, they become stronger. They create more other growth, and as a result of that, we end up with weeds that don't respond to glyphosate, and that's why they're trying to add other horrible chemicals to Roundup to finish the job, so to speak. And we're eating those. But people have to understand something. When we talk about glyphosate, what we're really talking about here is the consumption of residual amounts of glyphosate that is actually hurting humans now. Parkinson's disease is now associated. Various cancers are associated. We know from Dr. Samsel's work and Dr. Seneff's work that there is a amyloidosis associated with the accumulation of synthetic glycine. And basically, glyphosate is a synthetic form of glycine that the body can't dispose of. So once it's incorporated into tissue, it's going to stay there, perhaps indefinitely, perhaps forever until you die. But now we know that amyloidosis of the heart is happening for the first time ever. It's causing necrotic tissue in the heart, fibrotic tissue in the heart. The heart can't pump, and we have heart failure. We did that show 8 years ago. So glyphosate, regardless of why farmers want to use it, is hurting humans. And if you don't buy organic and eat organic as often as possible, you're consuming glyphosate. In fact, there was a study we talked about the other day that we've talked about on this show years ago, and I believe it was from Munster, Germany, where they found glyphosate in human breast milk of women who have never been out in the country. They've only ever lived in the city. So babies are consuming glyphosate, and it's being incorporated into their tissue as they grow and mature. This is scary shit, folks. This is not like we know that glyphosate is hurting people, and companies like Monsanto don't give a damn. They just change the name, and they have new names for this stuff. They blend a little something else with it, and they sell it under a different name. So let's talk about you. Good. I'm sorry. You want to comment on that, please?
You remember that little circle that I showed you way back when, don't you?
Yeah, we did a show called the Circle of Death, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
They visibly have it on the front end and the back end now.
Yeah.
Now the bear owns it. But anyway, our product is not going to displace Roundup in any way, shape, or form in row crop production. It's a niche product, and its niche is in the landscape arena, where people are concerned and understand the risks and the dangers associated with synthetic pesticides, and they want to protect their property. They want to protect the water supply around their property, their pets, their kids. Our product is a very consistently effective vegetation management tool that they can utilize. We're using it in the specialty crop, high value crop, vineyards, directed spray. You go in the vineyard and you want to keep the row clean. when we did the first tests in Australia with the one big consultant. He had a vineyard and also does consulting around the world. And he'd been trying alternative products because, number one, he knew the pressure that was getting on the vines in the vineyard. And he knew that his customers don't want to be drinking glyphosate, so they had to come up with an alternative. And we did a side-by-side comparison with two other products that they were trying to get success with. And the next day he called and ordered a tote of our product because he saw for the first time the results he was looking for. And another place where it's really finding a home is in the regenerative community.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of work in the southeast part of the U.S. with some regenerative farms that are fighting the tropical soda apple, which, on a regenerative farm, the bulk of them don't want to use any type of synthetic herbicide. They're not quote unquote certified organic, but they avoid herbicide in every means possible. But they need a tool for vegetation control. Well, not only have we shown them that we can consistently control that tropical soda apple, but in the trialing and testing that we did, we discovered that it appeared we were having effect on the seed. So we gathered the necessary samples according to Dr. Kramer's guidance, and he did a replicated trial on it, and we reduced the viability of that tropical soda apple seed by 88%, which is a huge tool in the toolbox for managing that weed. We're also seeing very high consistent results on a growing number of invasive species. And from Vermont to Texas and how many points in between, we're doing work in that arena. And again, it's in an area that's either regenerative or a sensitive area where they do not want to use any synthetic pesticides, but they need a management tool. And we're proving consistent results for them. On some of the perennial species, it does require a sequential application. But again, when we're done, the soil's healthier. It's not diseased and sick and imbalanced and nutrient tie-ups like the synthetic products are causing.
So what is the name of this product, Howard?
Weed Terminator 20 is the active ingredient, which it is a 20% acetic acid. That is the registered pesticide. And then the Boost is the product that we use in conjunction with that. And that has all of the natural oil and the proper emulsifier and wetting agent to give us the full penetration of that organic acid into the cell of the plant. And we break down the waxy cuticle on the surface of the plant, and the mode of action is desiccation by dehydration. On animal species, we have a 94 to 98% efficacy rate with a single application when it's properly applied, because you have to cover all the vegetation of the plant. On perennial species, it may require sequential, and we're learning more about the time of year having a role and a factor there. But French broom, Scotch broom, wild blackberry, poison oak, poison ivy, looks like we're going to win the battle in Pennsylvania. Russian autumn olive, as well as multiflora rose bush. Sorry about that. Is both of those plants are extremely invasive out there. So really, they're really pleased with the results that we're showing them, and we continue to.
So let me ask you a question. So milkweed, which is considered an invasive species, but lots of horses like to eat it, lots of cows like to eat it, and apparently the monarch butterflies love to eat it as they traverse the country. If a farmer sprayed milkweed with this, I'm assuming it wouldn't hurt the butterflies, right?
It will not hurt the butterflies. It is highly effective on milkweed. It's not 100%, but it's better than 90%, depending on the stage of the growth.
Can the weeds upregulate and become resistant to this over time in an evolutionary process?
I've asked the countless weed scientists that I'm privileged to work with. I says, is there a potential for resistance? And they said it's minuscule. And you know, another question I posed to Dr. Kramer, somebody asked me one day, well, what's the half-life on your product? Well, first of all, it's a biopesticide. It's made from organic compounds. It's not synthetically produced. It's not quote unquote certified organic at this stage. We're working towards bringing that formulation to market, and that's just a matter of sourcing some of that ingredients from different avenues so that the refining process doesn't disqualify them, which,
right.
You know, technically you can take water and it's okay to call it organic, and you boil it and it's no longer certified organic, which is
no kidding.
Doesn't make sense. That's the way the rule is, and we're working on developing that certified organic product. But as far as developing resistance, no. If it doesn't kill the weed, and there's some that don't, like plantain. We can spray plantain sequential, and it won't kill it.
Wait, we're talking plantain, the banana plantain?
No, it's plantain. It's a very broad leaf, flat. But it has tremendous.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. One of the applications, and you actually are the one who taught me this, I believe. One of the applications for glyphosate in non-genetically modified plant sources is wheat, and to synchronize the crop by putting the pressure of killing the crop, it matures faster. And so these farmers systematically spray an entire crop of wheat and days before it's harvested so that there's 100% yield per acre. Can they do that with this? Could they spray a crop with this new product, and will it put the pressure on the wheat to synchronize and mature quickly?
Let me explain the pre-harvest desiccation first. The purpose for that with the glyphosate is to dry down the crop rather than allow nature to do what it does so well and let it dry. They come in and spray the glyphosate, and 5 to 8 days later, then they've reduced that moisture content to where it's now below the maximum. It's below the maximum allowable limit, so that they can harvest. And the problem with that is that glyphosate is systemic. It's going to accumulate in the meristematic tissue of the plant. That's the root tips and the buds. Well, some of it's in the straw, but a lot of it ends up in the grain. And they'll do this with oats, wheat, barley. Barley, they've kind of, if it's going to the brewery, it's forbidden. The breweries buy a barley that's been desiccated with glyphosate because they can't make beer out of it if it ferment. When you get residue in there, it kills the bugs that they need to get the fermentation process. So
right.
And there are a lot of the oats that comes into the country is coming out of Canada, and one of the big grain merchandisers up there announced that as of next year, I believe it is, they're going to discontinue buying oats that's been pre-harvested with glyphosate. And there's another way to do it. You can swath it, lay it in the windrow, and then let it dry down, and then come and harvest it.
Yeah, but that's more steps, and that takes time. So can you take the desiccation process and dehydration process and make it happen with your product?
We haven't attempted that yet. We're working for seeing the capability of the material, and this stage, we cannot do that. We're hoping that we can progress to that level. We've done it in small trials in potatoes, and when we did it in Tasmania, it was better than the synthetic product they were using as far as the termination and the overall effect to the potatoes, but the volume of material that was necessary for application to get the results, and then the cost didn't make it feasible at this stage of the game. Okay. So we have to further hopefully we can further develop the capabilities of a newer formulation to be able to use it in that arena.
So let's talk about lawn care for a second. We're coming to the end of the interview. So this is something people could use to spray the weeds in the cracks of their driveway, like they use Roundup now, right?
Correct.
And it's also that something that commercial lawn care and landscape companies could use when their customers say, I don't want glyphosate sprayed on my dandelions.
Correct. And we're finding I'll give you an example. I put on 7,500 miles in the month of June. I was from Whitehorse Junction, Vermont to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as far as north to south. And the one place I stopped in Connecticut, it was a kids camp, family camp. And a friend of mine had arranged the opportunity for me to do a spray trial for them. In there, told them all about it. And I said, I'll gladly do a demonstration for you. And so we went and did the demo, and we started in a parking lot area in the median, and I sprayed all of on one side. I says, we'll have a control. That side I'll leave, and this side I'll spray. And I sprayed all of the weeds growing in the mulch there. And then we went back in the woods, and I sprayed poison ivy on trees and along a fence. And by the time I had sprayed out the 4-gallon backpack sprayer full of product, and about a half hour had passed. And they said, well, how quick will we see this working? I said, well, let's drive back to where we started. And it was a nice sunny day, which the more UV light you have, the more rapid the evidence of this, because again, it's desiccation by dehydration. So you put the sun on, and it hastens the driving out of that water. And I knew some of the species started spraying there, which ones were going to go faster than others. And you know, a couple of them had their head, literally, they were 8-10 inches tall. When I sprayed them, they had their heads on the ground. We got back there a half hour later.
Wow.
And that, of course, got their attention. And then they kind of opened up, and they says, well, we've been looking for a product like this, but because we've got rumblings coming down the pike that we may not be able to use synthetics. All of our customers are saying, we don't want you using that stuff around our family. But he said, we couldn't find anything that actually works. So I left them with the material that I had, you know, the rest of the container that I trialed with. And they called me up 10 days later and said, everything we sprayed with that stuff is dead. We want to order some more. How do we get it?
Okay, so let's do this. For those people who are watching, how can they learn more, and how can they purchase this product?
You cut out, Carl. Please repeat that.
For those people who are watching the show, how can they learn more, and how can they purchase the product?
If they go to our website, they can learn everything there is to know about the product. I was hoping that we would have the online purchases up and running by today, but there's some sort of a little glitch for getting the the ordering system is ready to go. That's all in place, but we've got some glitch between the freight company and the 3PL facility, which I saw emails back and forth on that today. Hopefully they'll have that ironed out.
And the website is contactorganics.com, right?
Contactorganics.com. And
okay.
That will take you to the U.S. website. We have, we're in the marketplace, Australia, New Zealand, U.S., and Japan currently at this point in time with the product.
And what? And one more time, the specific name of the product. When they get to contactorganics.com, will they be confronted with just this product?
There's all the supporting information, but under the products tab, all they'll find is Weed Terminator 20 and Boost. And then once we get the shopping portal turned on, it's already there. You just can't see it. Once they flip the switch, then they can order either the 32-ounce pack, which will make 5.5 gallons of spray solution, or the 1-gallon pack makes 22 gallons of spray solution, and the 4-gallon pack makes 88 gallons of spray solution.
So it sounds
bigger
like
than that, but I don't know if
sounds
that
like it's pretty economical. It sounds like it's economical. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the interview. Let me just put this up one more time. Contactorganics.com is the place to go to learn more about it. If you want your, we have an organic lawn care company that sprays for weeds, and it's all organic. I'm not impressed because the dandelions don't die. They're called limb walker, I think. And I'm going to bring this to their attention when they're out next time. I'll say, you guys need to get this stuff here.
On the dandelions, it typically requires a sequential treatment because they are perennial, but we do win the battle with dandelions on our product.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all people want. They want the weeds gone, but they don't want to die for the vanity of having a pretty lawn. Howard, I want to thank you so much for all your effort. You have always been fighting this fight for a very, very long time. I want to thank you for keeping me in the loop. We've done lots of interviews because you gave me the lead on emerging science, and I'm happy that this product is coming forth. I drink Bonterra wine because it's organic, comes from organic grapes. And I'm wondering if they know about this product too. Maybe it's somebody you need to contact in Napa Valley, Bonterra.
Regrettably, we don't have the approval in California, Oregon, and Washington yet. That's a world of its own in the regulatory arena. And we're bringing as soon as we have another formulation, which we have several registrations that we're going to be coming with in the next year to two, RTU, ready to use formulations. Once we get that next formulation submit to EPA, then we will begin the regulatory process for California, Oregon, and Washington.
Do you think we'll see this in Home Depot and similar stores at some point in time in the future?
Yes, we have a gentleman who's very connected in that arena that is going to be starting to showcase our products with them. Both the short term for the online, they have significant online presence themselves as a result of the manufactured epidemic called COVID. And when the new formulation is, we hope to have that on the shelf for next year's spray season. So that's when things will really ramp up.
Okay, contactorganics.com is the place to go. Also, don't forget to check out Coach Rob Regish's website, and that's coachrobregish.com. And we'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Howard, thanks for being here today, brother.
Thank you, Carl. It's good to talk to you again.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you. We'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Don't forget, share the show. Share the show. Always share the shows. Help somebody else.